Bon Viveur by Norton and Wilson, because life is meant to be enjoyed.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. So today it's going to be one of my quickie impromptu videos with pretty much no editing in the video and none of the hilarity you normally see in my video intros. These impromptu vids give me a chance to get out a bit more content with less effort, but hopefully no less entertainment, because today it's really all about the fragrance. And in these videos often it's an unboxing, usually a single fragrance review, and this one's not an unboxing, but often these are vintage fragrances that I've maybe bought on eBay, and these are vintage fragrances which I bought in each case actually on eBay over the last few years. The fragrance in question, I say fragrances because we've got several bottles. I've got two backup bottles. It's of course Ralph Lauren's legendary Polo, sometimes now referred to as Polo Green, a 1978 release which has truly stood the test of time and is still selling well on our shelves today. I'm reviewing the vintage Cosmere version. We can see on the bottom of the bottle there that if you're looking on eBay, if you're lucky and they've shown pictures of the bottom of the bottle, which they sort of should do, then you're looking for that word that we see on the second line up there, first word on the left, Cosmere. That's the company that sort of manufactured or made the actual juice for Ralph Lauren during the 1980s, basically. And the fragrance released in 78. Well, actually, I think, okay, before that, there's another version called the Warner version, made by Warner. I think that's the people who do the records and stuff. Anyhow, I think that's very, very hard to find now, and of course it's going to be so old, increasing chance it's gone off. So we don't know quite how that smells, or at least I don't. And it's broadly the same fragrance with the same note listing, but good luck if you find that one. Here we have the Cosmere version. Since about 1999, the year 2000, we have ones that don't say Cosmere anywhere on the bottle or box, and that's your modern reformulated version. And it's not quite the same fragrance. This is one where it definitely has changed a bit. I mean, it's got the same overall aura. Most of what you'd say to describe it is the same, but they don't use so much oak moss, I think. And something about it was somehow sanitized or smoothed out, maybe. I mean, it may not have just been regulations about ingredients. I don't know why they changed it or how, but it may have been that they tried to make it smell a little bit different for whatever reason. Most aficionados and people who really rate the fragrance or remember it from the good old days will agree. The Cosmere version is what you're looking for, and you can find that on eBay these days, because a lot of these were produced, and I've managed to pick up 3 bottles, none of which were that pricey. By the way, though, some vintage versions, at least that you can find here in the UK and Europe, do not have any mention of Cosmere, e.g. this box here is for my 100ml splash bottle, which is this one, and that has no mention of Cosmere, but I do know it. I can't remember how I researched this, but I think I found out it was around about 89, 90 this was produced. It's definitely the vintage, you can tell by the smell, and also the lack of long lists of ingredients on the box and that kind of thing. Actually, there's no barcode, is there? So it's pre-barcode and all that kind of thing. So it is a really old one, but yeah, so there are vintage ones that are really great, but don't say Cosmere. Discuss, I don't know why or how that is. Anyhow, that's all a bit boring, isn't it? Guys, let's talk about why this is a great fragrance. In previous videos of this short unedited type, I have done a little history of the house that created the fragrance. However, I did this one, Safari by Ralph Lauren 1992 release, not so long ago, and I ran through who Ralph Lauren is and how his company developed. So suffice to say, it's an American fashion brand making apparel, clothing, and with a long-standing history going back to the 60s or 70s. And they are famous for this logo of the polo player. Ralph Lauren, the man behind the brand, was a person of, I think, Jewish origins in New York. I don't know if something makes me think he might have had an Italian root or some Italian roots. I don't know. But anyway, he's an American guy from New York. I don't think he came from a hugely illustrious background, or I don't know quite what happened with his how he got into what he got into. But the fragrance stuff that he's released over the years has had some really good and interesting stuff, and quite a lot of mediocre releases too. I'm no fan of anything in the Big Pony line, which are kind of flankers of this effectively, but there was also one called Chaps only a year later than this, 79, and that's hard to get now. Apparently a real powerhouse type fragrance. And of course, as we can see there, there's Safari, and there's been things like Ralph Lauren Polo Blue and stuff like that. So this one really, to me, is the standout, and I'm billing it as the greatest release of the 1970s. And yeah, perhaps I can't say definitively that, but it's certainly a top contender for that. So the perfumer for this one, Carlos Ben-Im, still active, I think, today. He gave us Dunhill Icon only 4 or 5 years back, and a great perfumer behind many, many fragrances. I'm going to give you the note listing now. It's a woody chypre fragrance, and we have a long note listing, so hold on to your hats. We've got in the top juniper berries, artemisia, caraway, and basil, and coriander, and bergamot. In the mid of the fragrance, we have pine tree needles, leather, chamomile, pepper, carnation, geranium, jasmine, and rose. And the base notes are tobacco, oak moss, patchouli, cedar, vetiver, musk, and amber. So it's a very green, piney, mossy, rugged, masculine, bitter, green smelling fragrance. It is really hairs on your chest type stuff. I actually, the chap that I keep getting opinions of in my local Subway when I go for a sandwich and a coffee, simply said, well, he said a bit more, but he said that it smells like an aftershave. Now, that doesn't mean much, does it? But you get his point, because a lot of people will think of aftershave as a sort of more old-fashioned concept of fragrance and associate with their dad or their uncle or their granddad. And indeed, his point really being was that it's an old-fashioned masculine smell. Dead on, he's dead right about that. It is very much that. It's a really, really great performer if you get the old Cosmo version. My 3 bottles all smell the same, almost entirely as far as I can tell, which is a good sign that unless they've all aged and gone off in the same way, they haven't gone off. Perhaps we've lost some zest and brightness in the top notes, but I don't know. But they're all very much smelling correct and like each other, so I think you can do really well with this one. Good chance you'll pick up an old bottle still in good condition in terms of the scent, but there is always that risk that it may have gone off, so good luck with that one, guys. What you should get is a very green, bitter opening, which is also slightly sharp. You will also get definitely this piney, green, forest-like thing. You'll also have complexity and depth in the fragrance. Definitely plenty of woody undertones, an overall masculine aura, and this lovely kind of bitter green mossy base. You can pick up on a hint of green tobacco leaves, but it's not if you think of Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, nothing like that, or that kind of modern tobacco accord, but it's very much the green tobacco leaf type of accord, and it's very, very well done indeed. In the 1980s, many people regarded this as the smell of success. I'm actually going to do something I don't normally do. I'm just going to read out a few Fragrantica reviews, because I think, if you take the first few on any fragrance, it actually gives you a pretty good idea, which perhaps makes all of us YouTubers redundant, but let's do that. The first person to review it, or the most recent one on Fragrantica, on the 2nd of July, I think, You're the Mano Dog. I love these names people come up with. Great, isn't it? Okay, he's being a bit boring here because he goes into depth about the different versions. But basically, he says that, there's nothing interesting in that. He just breaks down different versions. He needs to get out more. Vintages is someone else's name, and he or she says, women like it if men smell fresh and clean and fresh, but not like lemon. She has a few seconds to decide whether she likes his smell or not. If the man smells clean, her doors stay open. Not sure what they mean by that, but anyway, moving swiftly on. Then she checks the sexual attraction subconsciously. Polo is perfect for that. It creates a fresh green aura around you with pine tree needles, tobacco and leather, which is very manly without being annoying. And after the opening, there is woodruff. Although it's not listed, that woodruff smells beautiful. Polo is a masterpiece. Don't know which version they're talking about. The modern version is broadly similar, but it has lost some of the sort of green dankness, and it's just a little bit different. Most of the description would be the same, but I just think it's more quality in the older version, I have to say. So whichever version that person is referring to, I would tend to disagree that many women will really gravitate to this. Almost every woman I have had smell it, there aren't many, but the ones who've commented have been, it's very old-fashioned and it's not something that I would really go for. So I would say not really the one to pull the ladies with, but somebody out there disagrees. It certainly does smell masculine. Not annoying. Well, it actually could be annoying because I find it quite strong. So I would say there's a good chance it could be annoying, but everyone's got different opinions, and that's the fun of this thing. By the way, I quite like Ralph Lauren clothing overall. It's quite a conservative brand. It's not like a Dolce & Gabbana or Jean Paul Gaultier, where they're all zany and out there. Very wearable clothing, and I really have quite a few of the polo shirts, and you can see one in the background. I'm just going to try and focus on the logo. There you go. The little man on the polo horse. And I find them very good because I tend to dress kind of formal with a shirt and a blazer and things, but when I want to dress informally, I can wear a polo shirt under my blazer, or if I just want to wear a t-shirt, I wouldn't probably go around wearing a Nirvana t-shirt or a Pokemon t-shirt or a t-shirt that says I'm a frag head or whatever people wear. But if I want to wear a t-shirt, I think Polo by Ralph Lauren ones alongside a Lacoste, are quite good, although I think some yobbos kind of wear them too with white trainers and stuff, and that is not a part of the scene that I really want to be involved in our current society. But there's different ways you can wear them, and I like them. Also, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, just the blurb that the company, or some blurb on Fragrantica apart from the notes, says this. I don't know if this came from Ralph Lauren and if it's what they say now or what they said in 1978, but I found this a bit contentious actually. So let's tell me what you think about this. Polo is here for fans of beautiful eternal things. Its name awakens association with a closed circle of the chosen, and this circle has its rules and traditions. As a truly masculine perfume, Polo does not contain floral notes apart from chamomile, which has more grassy than floral scent. And then it goes into some other things about the notes. So they're conjuring up this rather exclusive image of a closed circle, which I guess this ties in with polo, because obviously polo is generally only played by rather rich people who can afford a horse. And I imagine it's quite an elitist world in that in Britain here, the royal family play it. And I've got obviously no interest in polo. I like football, soccer if you're in the States. That's a proper sport that have you ever seen a polo match on the TV live? Probably has happened, but do a lot of people watch it? No, because it's a bit of a weird, silly sport, and I've got no intention of going on a horse, and I don't like the idea that we're not allowed in their little snobby closed circle. So that's kind of off-putting. But actually, the clothing and this fragrance are not terribly hard to afford, so we'll forgive them for that. Maybe it's nice to sort of think. It conjures up images of that world, and actually, this fragrance was regarded as the smell of success, worn by the guys in the country clubs of America. Perhaps they did play polo there, or maybe your golf club and that kind of thing. In the 1980s, it was popular and had this reputation as a bit of a sort of alpha male type fragrance, and that's okay. But I don't know about that whole thing about the actual game of polo. Funny game that. Maybe a Norton and Wilson fragrance that we should do should be themed around football, the sport of the people. In contrast to this, you can still be gentlemanly without excluding other people. What do you think, guys? Gravitas Porom, actually. Interesting, we specifically wanted to avoid the very old school, rugged, piney mossiness of polo when we created this fougere. So that's a side note. Okay, back to the fragrance itself. Fantastic green bitterness. They say no floral notes, but there's a few of them in the listing, so who knows what happened there. Doesn't smell floral though. It comes across mainly piney, green, bitter, rugged, masculine, nothing animalic or pissy like you get a bit in Chorus that came along a bit later. Great projection, very classy, very grown up, and really an excellent, excellent release. So for me, an absolute beauty from the 1970s. Not really, not exactly a barbershop scent. It doesn't have lavender. It's not actually a fougere, although some people say it is, but officially it's a chypre. So it doesn't really have a lavender thing that's strong. Is it even in? I don't think it's even in the note listing, which is kind of unheard of for a 70s fragrance. It's got a very complex note listing. Great perfumer, excuse me, Carlos Ben-Im, who also did Dunhill Icon, which I love, and an absolute titan of our times. The iconic green bottle, of course, is a stunning piece of design. Whoever did that had a great day at the office. Everyone recognises that, even if they can't tell you what it is. But the people know the logo, don't they? Polo by Ralph Lauren. And what a fitting start for their fragrance line this was. Other things came along, flankers and stuff, but this is the best in my opinion. Seek it out. I have not tried that new one that's out, the flanker to this. Is it called the Parf? I can't remember the name of it. Doesn't sound that amazing. Get this if you can. It's amazing. Comment down below. I want to hear what you think about that. That's all for today. Thanks a lot for joining me. Just very quickly, if you're interested in watches, I put them in the background of my videos. Sometimes I've got to have a hobby of liking old vintage watches. And look at this. I really like vintage Submariners by Rolex, but they are unbelievably expensive now. So I have this watch, which I picked up. It's only a 36mm, small vintage style size. It's actually quartz, but it's Swiss made. I don't know the era. It might be 80s. It might even be 70s. It could be 90s. So it ticks, but it's very kind of similar in its aesthetic without being a complete copy of a vintage Rolex Submariner. Sorry about my ring light. It doesn't seem to want to play ball. And I really love that one. So I've been pleased to pick that one up. And the watch I'm wearing today is a crazy Interpol cockpit. I swapped out the bezel. You can buy 40mm bezels, which is a common size, or bezels for 40mm watches on eBay. And I got this lovely blue one. and I put it in bleach, which has given it this kind of aged, although I didn't go too far this time. I've screwed a few others up by bleaching too much. It's got this indigo effect. Fun, isn't it? It's a hand-winding watch, and got a contrast there because it's called a cockpit, and it originally came with a kind of a 24-hour clock type dial, a la Rolex Pepsi GMT type thing. But I've put a diver's dial on it, so you can either dive to the depths of the earth or fly your aeroplane. It's probably not actually water resistant, but it is a hand-winding old Swiss 70s watch, and isn't that fun? Guys, comment down below. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've all had a good week. I'll see you in the next video where I'll put in a hilarious intro, maybe the karaoke. Thumbs up or thumbs down to that, let me know. And see you then. Bye-bye.
Bon viveur, les nouveaux parfums pourront par Untitled Chapter, parce que la vie est faite pour être appréciée.